So it's been a hot minute since I've been here, I guess. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Got some news to talk about. So we got the title, the cover art, and the blurb for the third book of Changing Skies. Um, it's a little bit in advance, I must admit. But yeah, let's talk about it. So a couple days ago, like almost a week, on the official Warrior Cats Instagram, I guess, they posted this, which they did for the second book as well, if you would remember. They kind of teased, oh, what's the title going to be? What's it going to be? And kind of immediately, everyone kind of figured out that the second word was going to be shadows. And immediately, everyone made fun of the fact that the word shadow or shadows has been used a lot in Warrior Cats. And looking at the list, yeah, it's a lot. Eventually, we got the full title reveal, which was Chasing Shadows. And here is the cover art. Looks good. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I mean, the first cover art for this arc was kind of standard, nothing particularly interesting. The second one, which is not even out yet, looks pretty good. You know, the kind of like the eyes, the detailing, and this one also shows that it really is intense. This is supposed to be Moonpaw, by the way. And as some people have pointed out, her eye color is potentially wrong, because she's a chimera. She has one kind of green eye and then one kind of amber eye. That ain't amber. That's red. So either this is hinting at like an evil possession plot, which I'll talk about that in a second with the synopsis, but it could just be an error. We don't know. But let's look at some of the details from the Warrior Cats website. So, yeah, some of this we already know. You know, they're revealing the third book in Changing Skies, Chasing Shadows. Okay, it's not like the greatest title in the world, just kind of like average. This is going to be written by Cherith Baldry. We can kind of suspect that. The person on the front cover is Moonpaw, which is why people are a little confused why the eye is a bit different. And in the background, it's her sister and Brambleclaw, which is odd because Brambleclaw hasn't really been a factor yet. I mean, he wasn't a factor in the first book. Does this mean he's going to be a factor in the second book? Like he's going to be like a character? I don't know. Potentially the synopsis reveals why he'd be involved, but I don't know exactly. Speaking of the synopsis, here it is. An ominous prophecy continues to unsettle the clans, while Two-Leg construction disrupts their connection to the Moonpaw and StarClan. Meanwhile, two cats, an elder and apprentice, believe only they can save the clans from certain destruction. So I presume this elder and apprentice are Tawnypelt, based on what we've seen from book 1, and based on the synopsis of book 2, and then what the later synopsis says for book 3, this apprentice is Starlingpaw. Which does beg the question, what is Moonpaw's deal in all this? If the story is primarily linked to Starlingpaw and Tawnypelt, how does Moonpaw factor in? Don't know. We'll see. But also this does reveal that the two legs, they're not going to be they're like the main point of this arc. Which is interesting. Like, people kind of brought this up. Didn't we just have an arc, kind of, where we had this whole disruption with our communication with StarClan? I mean, kind of in Arc 8, that was a thing, as I'm made aware. Like, that's more so Frostpaw not having that strong of a connection. And then Arc 7, also, because of the whole Ashfur thing, it just feels like we're reusing the same plot point again and again. It's the most baseline, boring plot point you could use. Like, okay. I don't know. Speaking of Moonpaw finally confesses to her clanmates that her dead sister has been torturing her in her mind, and the clan rallies around her in support. But as Moonpaw glows closer to Goldenpaw, her sister's threats become more ominous and even turn bloody. Moonpaw worries that she's in danger to her entire clan. Would ThunderClan be better off without her? This is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, not only does by book 3 she confesses to her clan that she's being tortured by her dead ghost sister, but they also believe her, if I'm understanding this correctly, which is not what I would expect. Like, if you're going to do something like this plot point, usually the whole trope is they wouldn't believe her. So I'm assuming either there's some form of proof that she can prove that her sister is haunting her, or they just unemphatically believe her, because they, like, why wouldn't they? Either is... I mean, the first option is more realistic, but the second option would be interesting, but a little, like, I don't know, loosey-goosey. Like, I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to do this plot point, evidence is the better way to go, even if it is a bit cliche. So what does that mean for book 2? Either she's going to struggle silently and not tell anyone because who would believe her, or she tries to tell people, but they don't believe her until she gets evidence, which is what happens in book 3. Who knows? But also, she thinks ThunderClan would be better without her. So this kind of brings the question, with her sisters, her threats become more ominous and more bloody. We kind of talked about this in the first book, where we're unsure about to what extent her sister can, like, influence the real world. This is something that the books have always kind of played around with. I say played around with. They just don't know what to do with it, really. Like, when Vicky was in charge, she kind of played with the idea that Dark Forest can interact, and StarClan for that matter, they can interact with the real world, the waking world, in certain specific moments. Obviously, Omen of the Stars, them coming out of the territory, is the first instance to come to mind, but also Mapleshade physically interacting with the world to manipulate events that would benefit her and benefit Crooked Star from Crooked Star's promise. That hasn't really been done by the new team, at least not to the same extent. And, like, we don't even know how her sister really exists. Like is she in StarClan? Is she in the Dark Forest? Is she in some other plane of existence, like we found out with Ivypool's heart? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out. But at the same time, Moonpaw wanting to leave the clans, like, with these threats becoming more ominous, are they, like, and turning bloody, does someone get hurt? Does she think the only way to protect her clan is to leave and essentially deal with it on her own? Again, kind of cliche, and it's probably going to happen. That'll probably be, like, the book, like, cliffhanger, that she leaves ThunderClan to go isolate herself, or to find out a way to better deal with this. Maybe that's how they deal with the Wildcats? Actually, wait. Maybe that is how they bring the Wildcats into this. Because their whole thing with the Wildcats is that each of their, like, quote-unquote apprentices, they're trained by, like, some spirit. They deal with spirits. And so does the sisters. But I think the team has made it very obvious they don't like the sisters, even though they invented them. And, anyways, that could be their way they introduce the Wildcats back to the main series. Huh. I didn't write this down, by the way. This is all just, I'm just talking. But let's continue on to the fun part of the synopsis. It's not, it really isn't. So, Tawnypelt is sure that the prophecy she received from Blue Stars is a dire warning, and she believes only the elders can save the clans through the oncoming danger. Frustrated with his mother, Tiger Star bans her from speaking of the prophecy, so Tawnypelt takes refuge in ThunderClan. She begins to wonder if her true place in the clan of her birth. So first off, we kind of knew Tiger Star II was an asshole, and we weren't really sure where they were going to go with that. This book just kind of straight out says, yeah, Tiger Star II is an asshole. And I don't really think there's a way back from that. And this is the weird thing. Ever since he became leader, which I still don't agree with, by the way, I think it was a terrible choice, and his super edition is pretty abysmal. He has just been an idiot. Now granted, you could argue, as many have, that whenever a cat becomes a leader, they automatically become idiots. And you in fact would probably be correct. But it just seems that Tiger Star II is just even more of an idiot. He's not even explicitly evil like his namesakes. He's just ignorant. Not arrogant, just ignorant. Well, he might be arrogant. I don't know. But banning his mother from speaking of the prophecy. I don't want to say this is topical because this was probably written a year and a half ago. But I don't know. It's a bit poignant, I'll say that much. But I do think it's interesting. This is the direction they're going. And also, her taking refuge in ThunderClan, which would be the third time she's done this? She did it in Power of 3. She did it in A Vision of Shadows. She might have done some other time in Arc 7 or 8. I don't know. It's the third, but as far as I'm aware, this is the third time she's done it. Is this the new team ruining her character? Because the whole thing with Tawnypelt leaving is she felt like she didn't belong in ThunderClan because of racism. Well, not really racism, more so judgmental, but a little bit of racism. So the idea of her going back and contemplating if her true place is in the clan of her birth is an odd choice. Unless they're going to finagle it that she goes to Wing Clan to be with Crowfeather. I don't know. We don't know where that relationship is going to go. But it just seems a bit weird that they want to do this. And again, could this be character assassination? Possibly. We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what it is. But framing the idea that you cannot be where you chose to be because it changes and decide to go back to where you were from, which you vehemently did not want to be because of issues you had. I don't know. I don't know how you could frame that story in a positive way or in any way that wouldn't seem inherently wrong. I don't know. Again, we're going to have to wait and see, but I'm very concerned of what they're going to do with Tawnypelt this arc. Because she was probably the best POV in the first book. So the idea of her potentially being ruined, I say potentially because again, there's a lot we don't know. And there may be a way they could finagle this in a positive direction. But again, I don't know. This is the problem with Warrior Cats. There's things that they do that are interesting and complex, but then sometimes they either backtrack on it or just straight out decide to ignore it in favor of something lesser. And that's why I'm concerned that they're going to happen. This is what's going to happen here. But I don't know. We're going to wait and see. Speaking of that, the final line is, amidst all of this, because of course there has to be more, Starlingpaw grows bolder in his belief that he alone must save the clans. But can an apprentice really hold the key to their salvation? Looking at the history of Warrior Cats, yes. Yes. It's almost always an apprentice that saves the clans, realistically. That happened in Arc 1, that happened in Arc 2, happened in Arc 3, happened in Arc 4, Arc 5, Arc 6, it happened in Arc 6, that's the whole reason Sky Clan was back. Same with Arc 7, same with Arc 8. Every arc has had an apprentice at some point save the clans. This should not be a question at this point. This really shouldn't be. But anyway, this does potentially confirm a suspicion of mine, unfortunately. It's an unfortunate suspicion that Leaf Star was a plot device. Because if this is correct, that means Leaf Star is not a protagonist in book 3. And that increases my suspicion that she is a plot device purely to get Starlingpaw into the narrative, and that she is no longer protagonist in this arc. Which is annoying to all hell. Because again, what was the point of her being a POV and having intrigue and having questions that were not answered in her POV just to axe her. And again, we don't even know if she's still leader. As far as I'm aware with the previews, there's no indication to say that she is either still leader or not leader. Like, as far as I'm aware, they haven't confirmed it yet. Either perspective. Unless I'm wrong. I could have missed something. But that's weird. Either way, if she's still leader, that's interesting. If she's not leader, what was the point? Other than her being a plot device. Because, like, they're not going to give her a super edition to explain all this. Like, they already gave her a super edition. They can't give her another one. Yeah, it didn't have her name attached to it, but she's on the cover. So, I don't know. It's frustrating. Because it's kind of similar to what happened to Alderheart. Because in A Vision of Shadows, Alderheart was really prevalent in the first book. And then after that, he wasn't really a factor. As it is brought to my attention, because it's been a while since I've read that book, he did play a part in book 6. That's still 4 books of him. I even go as far as say 4.5 books of him doing basically nothing. The only reason Alderheart was initially used as a protagonist was just to get Twig Kit and Violet Kit into the narrative. And in a way, they're doing that to Leafstar, but in her case, it's much worse. Because there's a lot of unaddressed things there. At least with Alderheart, they kind of addressed and dealt with certain parts of his story. Not as much as they should have, mind you, in books 2 and 3 and later books, but enough that it's like, okay, you got something. With Leafstar, as far as we can see, she's getting nothing. A complete waste. You advertise, you initially say, this is a huge moment. We're getting Tawnypelt back. We're getting Leafstar back. It's been ages since we have a sort of leader perspective and a character that people like. And you just shaft her so horribly. Again, we don't know to what extent they're going to do with her. She still could be a major character in the story, just not as a POV. But regardless, at least at face value, it's not a good look. And it just seems lazy, to be honest. I don't know how else to put it. Just the idea, the fact that you would do this is honestly just horrendous. I cannot fathom how they thought this was a good idea. And again, they could turn it around. I keep saying this, but there was always the possibility they could turn this around and do something interesting. But as of yet, nothing that is presented for the next year of Warrior Cats. Because reminder, this is coming out like next year, in 10 months. They announced this like 10 months in advance. The last book was announced 9 months in advance. This is ridiculous. They're going to start announcing books like a year in advance, 2 years in advance. I'm joking, probably. I don't know. But it's weird. It's a little weird. I don't know. But yeah. This book, Chasing Shadows. It's a book coming out at some point. It scares me. Hidden Moon also scares me even more than it already did. I am very nervous about what Warrior Cats intends to do with this current arc. Very nervous. But we'll see. We shall certainly see. But what do you think about this news? Are you more excited? Less excited? Extremely concerned? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.